Hi, this is the Bridge Briefing with Nizar Kinsella. I'm going to talk to you about a pretty exciting subject for Chelsea fans. I'm sure you'll want to get into this one. How good are Chelsea, and can they win the league? Can they win the Champions League now after winning the Club World Cup? Obviously, I was there in New York. I witnessed it live, the whole journey, not just the title win in the final, but I was there in the training sessions watching a few of them before the matches. I've been with the squad the whole time, meeting the players, seeing what they've got to say about things, checking the mood, seeing what Maresca's like at this stage of his career. 1 year in at Chelsea, it's been over a year now as we speak. They're all on holiday, by the way, after winning the Club World Cup in that 3-0 victory against PSG in New Jersey. So, it's kind of assessing after that. We've had a bit of time. I've had a bit of time off because it's crazy, honestly. Being out there for so long in the US, it was a pleasure, but I was jet lagged. It was a lot of work, and now let's have a look. Let's have a think about the Chelsea squad. Is it good enough? I'm going to do it in 3 sections. Is it good enough? What does the Club World Cup mean to the players and the manager? And where might they need additions to take the next step? There's still time, isn't there, with the transfer window open? Initially, the question is the squad good enough? Now, let's go through the sort of squad. Goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez, Philip Jorgensen, Mike Penders, possibly going on loan to Strasbourg. We kind of expect that one to happen. Been a bit of noise around that in the last few days. The same 1 and 2 as last season. Now, certainly last season, that was a question mark. And now Chelsea are back in the Champions League. Does it remain a question mark? For me, yes, of course. I think a lot of fans would say that. I think that the strategy here is either we sign a goalkeeper who massively moves the dial, or we work with what we've got. We'll make these guys better, because we do rate them. Chelsea rate these goalkeepers. So when it comes to Sanchez, and I think this is the one that you most want to talk about, he's a scapegoated often, sometimes rightly, when he's actually made mistakes. Sometimes fans just want him out and want him replaced with a better option. But Sanchez, actually, if you look at the underlying data, he's actually very, very good goalkeeper. Now, you could get the FB ref sort of graphic up here, and you would see that he's in the high. He's very good percentiles for shot stopping, very good for claiming crosses, things like that. So very quick off his mark on one-on-ones. So there's a lot of upside, and we saw in the Club World Cup that he was very good. So those performances, the stats, it's all suggesting we should continue with Rob Sanchez. So that's kind of the thinking. That's kind of where Chelsea are at the minute, is thinking, can we back this keeper? Now, there's one stat that he's poor at, which is mistakes, and he needs to cut those out. So for me, risk on goalkeeper, isn't there? Is that goalkeeper good enough to win the league? Right now, you'd have to say, and surely even Sanchez would say this, right now, it's on him to prove that, right? So, is he good enough to win the league? I don't know. Number 2, decent number 2. Can they keep him happy because he's a young goalkeeper, probably wants to play? And is he going to play the Champions League games? Because last season, Chelsea used 1 goalkeeper for the league, 1 goalkeeper for Europe, but Champions League is another level on the Conference League, of course. So it's going to be interesting, that one. Now let's go to the back line. Reece James, captain, I think so impressive during the Club World Cup. Malo Gusto, right back, a lot of questions on him and his role in Maresca's system as an inverted fullback. Doesn't usually work for him, but Maresca's tweaked the system now and is using a proper fullback on the right. And I can't tell you how good Malo Gusto was against PSG. Sensational performance. So he can do it. He can do it, especially when he's given the right role. Josh Achimpong as well, one of the best young players. Chelsea fighting to keep hold of him. A lot of noise around him right now in terms of potentially going. I don't think a lot of Chelsea fans would want that, because he's a very talented young defender. Chelsea don't want him to leave either, certainly not on a permanent. Maybe entertaining a loan. Defence. Now, here's another question mark. You've got Tosin Benoit Badiashile, Chalobah. You've got Wesley Fofana, who's currently injured but actually expected back, pretty soon, potentially for the start of the season. Levi Colwill, who's probably the one who plays the most, both for fitness reasons and performance. So those are the centre backs really in Chelsea's squad. Is that enough? Is that good enough? There's definitely a question mark. Is Chalobah the highest calibre of defender? He was brilliant in the final. He can do it again, but it's on him to take that next step. And even, we know that Wesley Fofana would be the automatic starter. The starting pairing for the league would be Fofana and Colwill. They've got a great partnership, but then there's a question mark on Fofana's fitness. Badiashile, question mark on him as well, but it seems he's going to stay. And Levi Colwill, there are questions around him as well, but I'd say that probably internally and externally, I think he's seen as currently the best option, the best defender, the one who's most consistent. So, that's Chelsea's back line. Now, are they the highest level? Probably Colwell's the one who's at the highest level right now. Fofana can be when he's fit as well. I think if Fofana was fit, it would be enough, but I genuinely think there is a question, and can they handle the load as well? And this is a question for the whole squad of Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, rather than Premier League, Conference League, Premier League. It's different, isn't it? Left back is again an issue potentially because you've got a player who I think has proven world class level is Marc Cucurella at left back, but then there's no one else there, is there? There's no backup, so if he doesn't play, who plays? Probably either Gusto from that position, James or Achimpong, or you can slide Colwill across. So there are options there, and I think across the back line there is enough players. But then there's a question, and we'll go on to this later. Should Chelsea sign a player either for left back or just a really dominant centre back? That's sort of a question that people are asking. Midfield, I don't think we have any doubts about the midfield. If you do, say in the comments below. But Moises Caicedo, for me, one of the best in the world, sensational. Understand he was only about 80% in the final, and he played so brilliantly against PSG. Enzo Fernandez. Then you've got Lavia, who, when fit again, similar to sort of Wesley Fofana, very, very good. And then beyond that, you've still got Dario Asugo, young player who's very similar profile to Caicedo. Dewsbury Hall, who I think is actually playing at a good level. And he did actually have quite a big role across the Club World Cup. He played a lot from the bench, of course, but he's having that impact from the bench and doing well. Still a question mark on his future. So that's sort of the midfield. You could argue Enzo Fernandez is actually number 10 now, doing really well in that sort of further forward role, getting loads of goals and assists. Like, we've got to consider that because there's so many sixes now at Chelsea, and they want to create space for Andre Santos, who's come back up, from his loan at Strasbourg, that Enzo Fernandez now is pushing forward into a 10 and delivering, by the way, brilliantly in that role. We've got to consider him as the 10. So when you're thinking about new signings, a lot of people will try and move Chelsea players around to add a signing, but you've got to think about the minutes. Are they there for any new players? Cole Palmer, obviously, he is a 10, one of the best in the world. He showed that in the final. I don't think there's any doubts about that. The star power is sensational. We've also got Estevan Willian coming in from Palmeiras, absolutely unbelievable youngster. Plays off the right or number 10. Very, very good and enjoys playing number 10. Got Jamie Gittins, left wing. He's the only left winger now in the squad. Christopher Nkunku still massively linked with a move away. Nicholas Jackson massively linked with a move away. João Pedro, exceptional in the Club World Cup as a sort of striker, but he can play across all the positions in the front line. Pedro Neto, also exceptional in the Club World Cup, played on the left and the right, but brilliant on both, especially generally the right. And then you've got Liam Delap. Noni Madueke has obviously left for Arsenal. So, yeah, I think the squad balance right now is pretty good. I don't think Chelsea have to sell. I think there's minutes there for pretty much everyone. Maybe there's one too many attacker, but actually I don't think Chelsea have a massive oversized squad by any means. So yeah, in good shape. I haven't mentioned Tyreek George or Mark Guiu as well, young players could go on loan. Certainly there's interest from Ipswich in Mark Guiu as well. So could he go on loan in the Championship? That would be probably a great move for him developmental wise. So yeah, it's something being considered by Chelsea. I think these things will sort of develop in the coming weeks. But that's the squad. Are they good enough? Probably the weaknesses are defensive cover, dominating centre back. Are they dominant enough? Goalkeeper, is he reliable enough? Is he going to make mistakes? And then are there enough goals in attack? And then you're looking at the Club World Cup and you're thinking, at least for the latter, yes, Cole Palmer on form, Enzo Fernandez on form. Then you add in João Pedro, who's really good against the low block, him as well. Liam Delap as a new signing as well. Is he going to develop into a player? You're starting to think the answer to that last question, which is what title winners need, is a yes. So, yeah, it's kind of on the manager, I guess, to make it work. And then there's a question of, how much of the squad developing. This is a young squad, we know, youngest in the league. This is me getting on to the second question I posed to you. What does the Club World Cup mean to these players? Of course, it's huge. They're a young squad. They're the youngest. They're the second youngest in the Club World Cup behind RB Salzburg, and this is the youngest team in the Premier League, and it's also the second youngest in the top 5 leagues behind only Strasbourg in France. So very young squad, but to win the Conference League and the Club World Cup in a season, in the manager's first season as well, by the way, I think it means that there's going to be belief behind the manager. The players will learn how to win. We can say that Chelsea are winners again after 2 pretty bad years, if we're honest. And I think that it sort of also says the project is kind of working. So, yeah, talented group, very good. I mean, I think a lot of clubs around, England would be envious of the resources and quality of player that Chelsea have. I think the backroom staff as well. That was a huge challenge to go to America with the weather like it was. And this gets underrated a little bit. With the weather like it was, everything how it was, the conditions were difficult, a lot of travel. Every team was affected, right? But Chelsea managed to handle it one of the best. That's one of the factors why they won it, right? So that, the backroom is working really well as well. That's stuff beyond the manager. That's club level stuff is working really well now. So I think, I think Levi Colwill, a guy who knows Chelsea better than pretty much anyone except Reece James in that squad, said, we're ready to win big trophies, Premier League, Champions League, we're here. I still have doubts about the Premier League, but I think Champions League, it's sort of, more open because it's a cup competition, and Chelsea, I actually think, could win that. But Premier League, I just think, can Chelsea handle the grind, the relentless grind, get up to 90, 95 points? That's going to be a question, especially now back in the Champions League. It's harder being in the Champions League than Conference League. You can play a first 11, second 11, can't you? Have your best 11 available for that, that Premier League game. You need to win to keep, your points tally up. But when it's the Champions League, are you going to pull Caicedo out and Palmer? No, you're not. So it's going to be interesting to see how those kind of players adapt to increased workload. Chelsea handled the workload really well last season. Kind of like I say, one player playing one player playing another, but it's going to be harder to do that next season. And it will be interesting to see how Maresca deals with that, how Chelsea deal with that. It's a very good squad, so potentially they can. But that's going to be difficult as well, adapting to that. So the Club World Cup means a lot to these players, right? It's a huge trophy win, and I know that they celebrated it in New York like a massive trophy win, and rightly so. I mean, Donald Trump was there, so it shows you it was a big event. The President of the United States was there. So I kind of touched upon it earlier, but where might they need additions to make the next step? Goalkeeper, a lot of people would say, Currently, the information is that it's the goalkeeper signing's massively played down. Mike Maignan, he is a player that Chelsea looked at earlier in the transfer window, but never got done. Price tag too high. It shows you that maybe for an exceptional goalkeeper, Chelsea will enter the market. But right now, certainly not something I'm expecting, not something imminent. Maybe an opportunity comes up and that changes. But right now, I'm saying it's being played down. Defensive additions, there's an openness to do it, but not seen as necessary. So we're seeing maybe a bit of noise around Jarrell Hato from Ajax. Potentially he could be the one, but we'll see there. It'd be a great addition because it's like left-sided, player who could play either left back or centre back. So certainly fits the Chelsea model of age, young player, one of the best young players in the world. Chelsea want to sign all the best young players in the world. That's the strategy, that's the model, and it's kind of working. Then attack, right? We're seeing some noise around Xavi Simons, still a bit of noise around Garnacho. Very different profiles of players, but I guess for me, I don't think it's likely until we see some outgoings, because we've still got Nkunku there, still got Jackson at Chelsea, and to be honest, I think there's a good chance those two leave. It depends a lot on Chelsea wanting to do a deal on their terms, but also one that will attract a buyer or another club to try and find a way of getting that deal over the line for those two. And Nkunku and Jackson potentially could leave. Let's see. There's a lot of moving parts here in terms of attackers. Also, two very different profiles of attackers. It's very interesting for me. Gittin's probably left wing. He's the only one who's a natural left winger. So maybe they're a bit weaker in that area. But number 10s, I think Chelsea are one of the strongest in the world already. So yeah, maybe Simons would be coming in if he did to play off the left. But that's just me speculating what the situation might be a little bit. That's how Chelsea might strengthen. But that's kind of what we're looking at the minute. It's a lot depending on outgoings in attack. Defenders maybe depending on outgoings as well, but certainly if an opportunity arises, they'll probably take that if they really think it. And then goalkeeper, not expecting it, but similarly, great opportunity arises, but it has to be a great one because you want your number one to be special. They'll do it, but are those goalkeepers out there? Don't know. If another club signs a great goalkeeper, you can maybe say to Chelsea, why weren't you there? But right now I'm not seeing any goalkeepers on the move. That's sort of everything really. Are Chelsea good enough to win the league? For me, it's maybe a year too early. I don't know what you think. Maybe you disagree. I think Liverpool are doing great business, by the way. Certainly doing big business with Ekitike. And obviously, British transfer record, Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen, great players to add to the squad. They're going to be strong, right? And then Arsenal are there doing a lot of business, Gyökeres and a few others. And in Man City have done a huge amount of business. So you'd say that Chelsea are among the 4 best teams in England now. Absolutely, like they're there. They're alongside those. Maybe Liverpool are a bit ahead of everyone. Obviously won the league by quite a big distance. But then Chelsea are right there. There's a debate if Chelsea are better than Arsenal. There's a debate if Chelsea are better than Man City right now. And that's going to be interesting to see where Chelsea are at, come next season. Challenge of lack of pre-season, of course, coming. But yeah, in total, I think that maybe the Champions League, going back to what Levi Colwill said to us, after winning the Club World Cup, he says they can win the Champions League or Premier League. I think probably Champions League, weirdly, even though it's seen as more prestigious, I think weirdly easier tournament for Chelsea to win. Premier League, let's see. I think I want to see a bit more evidence before I stick my neck out and say, yes, it's Chelsea's time. So that's the summary. Chelsea, can they win the Premier League? Outsiders. Can they win the Champions League? I think they're right in the mix, to be honest. Proving it, beating PSG, the Champions League winners. So yeah, that's it. This is the Bridge Briefing. Keep in touch with me. I'll try and do more videos as well into pre-season, and then there's going to be new signings and all that. So yeah, just keep in touch with us. Reply in the comments below, and we'll be in touch more. Take care. Bye.